Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful that you're here for this daily medicine transmission for February 24th, 2021. Oh boy, I can't even, we have a lot to cover today. That's all I can say. It's not all I can say. I can say absolutely so much. So welcome. I hope everyone is doing well. Taking very good care of yourselves. There was a big shift. Wow, there was a big one. And there are some very significant astrological transits that I have talked about many times now in the new moon report. I just talked about it on the full moon report. I will link that at the end of this video so that you can, go back, compare notes, do a little retroactive astrology. I kind of love doing that. It really gives us an opportunity to learn how these transits can be utilized as as a way to anticipate to a certain extent how things may manifest in our own lives and on a collective scale. So let's recap yesterday, because it's really important that we understand why yesterday was so important in terms of understanding understanding how important it is that the community that we find ourselves in, the support structures that allow us to feel safe and secure, as well as emotionally vulnerable, so we can tap into our intuition safely. There is such a desire to connect, and there's a desire to bring forward something new. And the feminine is definitely emerging in a very new form today. Wow, there was just a massive shift since yesterday. But why it's so important that we are clear on where we belong, who we trust, where our loyalty lies, and who we identify with, and most importantly, where we feel safe and secure emotionally, so that intuitively we can tap in even deeper, is because, I will say this, that the darkness and the shadows were swirling today. They were coming from all directions this morning as I was in my meditation. And, but at the same time, there was just this pulsating, light that was coming from within me, that was coming out and pulsating out. And it was just kind of deflecting, right? They were coming at me and it was just deflecting. It was kind of this beautiful fluid motion. And that's where that is where the real protection, against psychic attacks and astral intrusion really comes from. And this is a conversation that has come up with, like I said yesterday, colleagues and peers of mine, and with clients, about how to protect yourself from those types of intrusions, especially as an empath, and especially if you work with clients in that capacity. And it's really about bolstering your own light and your own field so that it does emanate from within you and everything bounces back off. Like, darkness can't exist in the face of blinding light. So and believe me, they are coming in hot today. Like I said, they were coming in, and that's because there was a big, massive shift. And the action isn't really going to manifest itself, I don't think, until much later today. So the Mars is in a trine to Pluto at fixed star Algol, the head of Medusa. We're going to talk about that. And Leo, the moon is in Leo now. We are going to have many of us are going to have our Veruca Salt moment today, when the Leo moon is in a square to Uranus and is in opposition to Saturn. I want it now. I want it all now. Oh boy. And there will be a descent into chaos on some level, as this day progresses. And with this trine between Mars and Pluto on the head of Medusa, there is so much potential here to finally release so much. And for those who have not identified their shadow and how we project that out when it's unresolved, this is going to be a really intense type of energy. And of course, this is just exact today. It's been building for the last day and a half with Mars and Pluto. And probably really since last week, to be perfectly honest, but it's exact today, which means that they'll come into this trine. They're very supportive of each other. And it's deep. It's deep and penetrating and confident. The transformational potential here today with the separating, finally cutting the head off the snake, so to speak, is so strong. And if we can see it for what it is, then we can manage the descent into the quote unquote chaos and the formlessness. Knowing that it is a precursor to what is coming. And that is why the thumbnail and the image that I picked for this transmission is Perseus holding the head of Medusa. So we'll talk about that. Let me put the reading up here so you can kind of look at what we're dealing with here. Alrighty, there we go. So I hope everybody's taking good care of themselves. If you are needing any kind of energy realignment, starseed reading, energy reading of any kind, you can check out the description box below. Find the website for Catalyst Energies, and you can book services there. I have a lot of stuff on a lot of different price points, and energy work and Reiki seems to be really very helpful right now. Very, very helpful right now. So that's something to consider. So go ahead and take a look at this as I talk, because there again, oh boy, we got a high priestess here at the outcome. We have some Three of Swords. We have reversed. We have the Ace of Wands reversed. And look, if you look at the bottom here, there's the Light of the World that came out yesterday with the spider. So this idea of a strong but flexible foundation in our home space, in the place that we feel we belong, that protects us and nurtures us as well. That Cancer energy. Wow, yesterday was really important to get that cleared up for ourselves as we embark on something that's going to be just remarkable. Wow, the energy, like I said, I just can't get over it, how much it has shifted today. So if you've seen the Clash of the Titans, right, I'm kind of dating myself as I talked about before in the full moon report, the original Clash of the Titans, I haven't seen the new one, and I have no intention of seeing it because it's probably garbage. So I don't watch new movies anymore. And it's based off the Greek myth, right? And so Perseus is the half mortal son of Zeus. He comes back to be the hero. And one of the things that he does is that he cuts the head off Medusa. So who is Medusa? Medusa was one of three sisters. She was actually the most beautiful. And she was, now there's a couple different ways that this is interpreted, but basically, I think the one that makes the most sense is that she was approached and raped by Neptune in the temple of Athena. Pallas Athena, the goddess of wisdom and strategy, and gave birth to Pegasus as one of the offspring of Medusa and Neptune, which is interesting that Perseus riding Pegasus, the winged horse, right? So I got distracted. Sorry. I was just thinking about so much of that movie. Anyway, so Medusa is turned into this beast with snakes for hair, and she's actually a serpent herself. And, this symbolism and the archetype that represented here, again, is the dark feminine. And it's specifically the monster that comes about as a result of our unresolved shadow when we are traumatized, right? Because Medusa was traumatized in that situation, and she was banished, and her form changed, and she was so hideous that anybody would turn to stone. And so Perseus comes and destroys Medusa, not because he needs to destroy Medusa for the sake of destroying her, but destroys her and takes her head so that he can kill the Kraken, right? It is the only real weapon that is going to kill the Kraken, who is going to... Andromeda is being offered as a sacrifice to the Kraken, and so he's in love with her and saves her by doing this. So It is by removing the head of Medusa. Now, fixed star Algol is where Mars is today. In this trine to Pluto, okay? Mars is the god of war. This is the warrior, the confident, courageous, will to action part of ourselves, the divine masculine part of ourselves that is, that is penetrating, right? That is going out and doing, right? And is actualizing the self, the god of war. It is the warrior energy in a conjunction now with this degree in Taurus, the fixed star. This is considered one of the most maleficent, the most malefic star in the entire pantheon of fixed stars. Okay, so oftentimes in the natal chart, if you're reading sidereal or Vedic astrology, or using fixed stars as part of, in constellations as part of your astrological modalities, this usually represents decapitation, violent mobs, death, all of those things. This is the head of the serpent. And so when Perseus takes the head off Medusa, it does represent to a certain extent how the releasing of ourselves from the monster that we become when we do not resolve our trauma, right? When we don't resolve what has happened to us, how we've been victimized in any way, shape, or form. When that is unresolved, we become this monster, and the darkness is something that resides out on the surface, and coming out from our heads, the snakes as hair. It's pretty cut and dry. Now, there are other interpretations, and the same thing with Black Moon Lilith, that the feminine gets a bad rap, and this is really just a way to suppress the feminine and the energy of the feminine. And to a certain extent, I might agree with that. But what I do see here, and it is related to Lilith, that is also in Taurus right now. We do need to, when we let go, right? When we lose our heads, when we lose this part of ourselves, we are creating space in order to heal, right? When we allow this part of ourselves to be released, we make space. And that is what Pluto does. Pluto is the Lord of Death. And so this connection today, this trine, they are supporting each other. And it is the decapitation of the monster, whatever that represents to us. And again, this is why it's important to understand your chart, because you can see how this will impact you on a personal level and in what areas of your life, and how it might be related to other aspects of your chart. So we are looking at a losing of the heads, right? And if this, if this is something that we are already aware of, it is something that we are actively working with. If we are accepting and integrating our shadow and becoming a whole person and allowing this part of ourselves to be let go of, then this will not be as treacherous and as destructive of, and chaotic of a situation as it could be otherwise, because the high priestess is a descent into chaos, right? It is formlessness. It is the subconscious. It is the darkness within that doesn't have any rationality attached to it. It is the deepest intuitive wisdom. But it's going to come at a price for certain people, especially if you have been identifying with this part of yourself. So we'll go through this one step at a time. And like I said, with the moon in Leo, where it's going to square Uranus and is going to oppose Saturn. This is our Veruca Salt moment, right? Because we want it now, and we want to push back individually and in our feeling, right? We want to push back. We want to push back, and we want the old guard to let it go, right? It's time to move forward. And as much as that is going to happen, remember where Uranus is. It is about trusting the natural cycles unfolding, being able to see what's coming without actually being there yet, but anticipating it. Saturn, that is in a position in Aquarius, that's saying we are still looking at mental archetypes of where we are going, but it is not real yet. It is what's real is the fact that they are just archetypes. They're just wax figures. We haven't gotten there yet. And so these two energies are going to provide a real tension and a challenge to I want it now. I want it all now. And what happens to Veruca Salt? Well, in her stubbornness, in her ego, right? In her demanding and of always getting her way in this situation, what happens? She falls down into the garbage chute, the descent into the darkness, into the chaos. Oh boy, it's going to be an interesting day. We have Venus, like I said, the feminine is really coming online, exiting that chrysalis today, that metamorphosis of the divine feminine and the Empress. And at the same time, the sun in Pisces. How do we keep from completely losing ourselves, but at the same time, completely dissolving into the collective experience? Well, anybody that has ever been uncompromising in their own truth is going to face some level of persecution. And it is really our faith in something, right? Our faith in God, our faith in source, our faith in just the beneficence of humanity, right? And nature, any of those things that are bigger than just our individual experience. When we have faith and trust in that process, that is what is going to be, our rock in the midst of the ocean. And yesterday with the Princess of Cups, the island floating out in the middle of the ocean, there's an innocence here and a tenderness, and compassion, right? All of this water energy that is here, especially with Pisces. And Venus tomorrow moves into Pisces. So there is so much available to us, but if we are, the chaos is coming, okay? It is definitely coming. And if we are not prepared for it, we are going to lose our heads. It's pretty clear to me. So let's look at this one step at a time here, to see what has come forward for us. Oh my gosh. I really hope everybody is doing as well as they can and taking care of themselves and realizing it's a journey, okay? It's not going to be figured out all at once. And, you only learn by going through these experiences. 1 second here. I love the magic bean juice. Okay. So the Three of Swords, nobody likes this card, right? The Three of Swords, the sorrow, Saturn. There's that Saturn energy, Saturn in Libra. So Saturn is in Aquarius right now. But in Libra, it's definitely a definitive, painful, sobering realization, right? Something you're not getting around in terms of your knowledge and understanding. And when it's reversed like this, we are not learning the lesson, right? We are feeling the pain and the sorrow and the disappointment. But there is no, learning of the lesson. There is no realization coming out of it. It's just in it. And if you see the sword here, when it's reversed, it is just plunged into down in, right? Again, some stubbornness with Saturn, some really fixed energy that is not allowing us to lift out of it necessarily. So again, with Mars and Pluto, off with her head, right? Off with that part of ourselves, off with the head of the demon, of the serpent, right? Letting there be space for something new to come in. But in the process, there is definitely chaos if you're losing your head, right? And I don't mean to laugh because I think that it's funny. It's just so intense. Now, at the heart of the moment, the Ace of Wands reversed. And again, a false start, destruction through exaggeration, being vexed, and a cancellation of something. And so we are seeing a false start. We are seeing a flare. Again, this is going down into the ground. This is being focused down in. There is some frustration and there is a sense of, because of this sorrow and because of this painful, disappointment and realization, that comes along with that Three of Swords. In the Rider-Waite, it's the piercing of the heart, right? Oh wow, there is going to be some piercing, that is for sure, and it is going to really vex some people. And again, the destruction through this exaggerated, what this is supposed to be upright is this beautiful seed point of transformation. Well, it is going to be internalized. It is going to be inverted in some way. It's going to be rageful, or it's going to, we may actually, some people may walk some things back and be like, oh no, wait a minute. I do not want to necessarily put my energy into this. I have to cancel before I even start. That's also a possibility as well. But what we see in the present here is not the beginning of a transformation necessarily, unless it's internalized, and it's going to be or inverted, or it's going to be a false start in some ways, or just being vexed. That seems to be just like, ugh. That seems to be a really strong energy as well. Now, again, this could all be about the internal process as well when all of these reversals are here, the internal process. This is why yesterday was so important to understand where you are supported, where you are emotionally secure, who do you align with, who protects you, who do you protect, who are your peoples, where's your personal power coming from? Because today, and moving into this full moon, we are going to be very challenged. And this is where we're going to get our support from. So, but in this moment, there's a vexing, and destructive energy as well. So at the top of our awareness, and where we get our institutional power, just like in the astrology chart, the zenith, right? The top of the chart, where we get our power as a result of where our power together, what we build together, the waterfall. So here is the power of our emotions and our depth. And look at there, when you talk about forces, this is the actualizing transformative fire wand energy in the Akashic Tarot, the forces. And this is a force to be reckoned with, because you're using gravity and the force of water, which will literally shape the landscape based on the energy behind it. So there's incredible power here, and we are able to shape any situation. This is important, right? This is why there's so much disinformation about certain aspects on both sides of the political aisle, both sides of the spiritual aisle, because when this disinformation is presented and infiltrated into our consciousness, it keeps us from realizing that it's really us and our own energy that is able to shape the situation. Then we give our power away, we expect things to happen, and when they don't happen, that energy is harnessed right from us. So this is about the fact that we shape the situation, and there is incredible power, there is incredible energy, and it is fluid, but it's able to shape the actual landscape because of how powerful it is. And it never stops, right? You don't stop a waterfall. It doesn't, well, you can create a dam, I suppose, but waterfalls are harnessed for hydroelectric energy. So just keep that in mind, that this is the source of our power together, is our intuitive and our emotional and our compassion, and the expansion that is here as a result of the depth of our awareness and our emotions is significant. And we have to keep that in mind. We have to be responsible for it. We have to not just let it go everywhere, right? Because it is so powerful. When we are Here's the light of the world, right? This came up yesterday in terms of the guidance. Now it is at the root of our personal power. Remember to let your higher self in. It's knocking. It's not as subtle anymore, right? Now it's here and it's rooting us. And if we do not answer the door, then how are we going to successfully utilize this emotional power? Also, too, we don't want to answer the door for anyone who is not this false light as the same thing. So we have to be mindful of that. What is our higher self? Do we know the difference between the emotional chatter and our intuitive voice? This is why having a practice is so important. And your intuitive voice is calm. It is supportive. It is never going to lie to you. And sometimes it tells you what you don't want to hear, but you know that it's true. You can feel it in your body. The emotional compulsion is pulling you into fear, pulling you into worry, pulling you into anxiety, pulling you into anger, right? Those are emotional compulsions, pulling you into a false sense of hope, right? And disempowering you. So again, it's important that we know the difference so that when it does come knocking, that we answer the door and that we know when it is false light as well. And the light of the world is the Hermit card, right? The Hermit goes into the darkness, that Virgo energy, which is going to be the full moon, that Virgo energy coming out from the darkness. You go into the darkness of yourself. This is personal reconstruction. And when you do this, then you can be the light of the world as well. And you can provide this light to others. You can be the person knocking at the door. But this is really about the higher self coming and knocking. And this is where our personal power is. And we have to know the difference. We have to know the difference. And we also want to be strong and flexible at the same time. And we'll see that with the guidance. Because where is this headed? The High Priestess. This is the Moon card. Again, this is, water, the mysteries, the chaos, the inner voice, the wisdom. This is going to be the descent into the darkness after losing the head, right? And again, with the moon in Leo, right? This is that Veruca Salt moment where she slides down the garbage chute. This is the slide into the chaos, into the darkness, into, and not necessarily the death card, but into Scorpio realm, the moon in Scorpio. There is no light here. Sometimes you have to walk through the darkness to get to the light. There is no light without darkness, and there's no creation energy without a space. And we have to get into this space. This is intuitive knowledge here, deep wisdom, and a desire to find the inner source. This is where it's going to head. And for some people, we've been waiting for this, and we've been working towards this, and we are ready, and we're going to slide, not necessarily be Veruca Salt. We are going to be more like Charlie Bucket, right? Who is not perfect, right? He screwed up too. It's just life. We learn from our mistakes, but this is about the chaos and sliding into the chaos. And for as much as we want to push that situation, just know that we're not there yet, and we have to go through this process. I feel like this message has come up so many times, and now it's here. Now it's here, right? So this is the outcome. So where's the guidance here? Number one, so two things came out when it comes to the Six of Forces, the power behind our emotional energy. Number one, Atsum, I am here. So remember that it's not just about you and me, right? Individually, that there's support around us, and that it's not just about us, right? It is about much more than just us. But we are supported. There's so much support right now. There is so much guidance if we tap into it. We just have to be aware of it. And to allow ourselves the space, again, to tap into this if we are struggling. And if we are finding ourselves out of balance, right? Because this is the second guidance that came out, the Seven of Forces, balance. We want to make sure that everything is exactly equal. We want to be balanced within ourselves. And so that when we engage with that deep energy, that we are using it appropriately, that we are shaping the landscape appropriately, and to create the highest version of where we want to go. And if we are out of balance, then again, if we are succumbing to the chaos, right? If we are like Veruca Salt, who is completely selfish and conceited and stubborn and is, this is just an example, and given everything that she wanted and wants the instant gratification, and she doesn't get it, right? When we slide down that chute, it's not going to be pretty. And Mars is making sure that it's going to, it's got that, again, that penetration. That is a big energy with Mars and Pluto, like that penetration, power, depth, desire, All of these things are really strong. And so we have to make sure that we are internally balanced, and we can ask for support, ask for help, be aware that it's more than just us, so that when we engage the incredible energy and power of our emotional and intuitive nature, that we are actually shaping the landscape at the highest order, and not based on our fear or those lower compulsions, right? Lower compulsions and the lower emotions, right? And it's not to say that those are bad or we should feel guilty about having them. Chiron is part of this mix today, because it's going to trine the moon at the same degree that the moon is going to square Uranus and oppose Saturn, right? And let's take the two objects out of the picture and just look at Aries and Leo in a trine to each other at 8 degrees. With Aries, we're realizing that there is spiritual support. There is a connection here that is allowing us to start opening up, but there's still protection, right? We're not totally open yet. And there is a certain amount of guilt that we have to deal with, and shame to allowing this in, right? Just had a client not yesterday that has the same thing in terms of Chiron, the same position, right? There is a guilt and a shame about allowing in the spiritual influx in a way that's protected. And sometimes what we do is we squash it because we don't realize that there is a mediation there. Mediation. There's and mitigation. That's a big one that seems to be coming up with this. So again, we can let in the spiritual influx and know that I am here, and we are attended to, and we can allow this influx in without being feeling ashamed of it and feeling guilty about it, and also not being totally rolled over, you know what I mean? Just letting it roll us over either. So there is support here, and there is newness coming in. And the challenge with Chiron is always about not identifying with the victim nature of it, and feeling guilty and ashamed of ourselves, but to rise out of that and let go of the identity of being a victim or a savior in order to be, again, a whole person. And so if you are, again, if that head's coming off and that's chaos for you, and you're like, oh, I'm feeling like a victim, then you are not getting the most out of this Chiron right now. This chaos is, in fact, a way to allow the influx of these spiritual energies in a very protected way. There's so much support, just like I talked about today. The flow, right? The pulsation of light out that was repelling all of this shadow that's trying to come in. And they're coming in, because it's just like, where do I go? Right? Where do I go when you cut the head off and it everything comes shooting out? So, balance is important. And the honeybee as well. Let compassion and forgiveness, especially towards yourself, but other people, because not everybody's going to be graceful about this, and not everybody is on the same path. Remember, Mercury is still at the same degree that it went direct. It has not left this degree yet. Everybody is in a different place about things. Be compassionate and forgiving, right? Realize that is the Pisces element. Is that you can be compassionate because you can actually feel into what it's like to maybe experience hardship or chaos in some ways. I can't believe how many people I've heard through my own my own research and reading people's posts, or just reports from other people that have, basically said, well, the people, it's really sad what's happened in Texas, but it's kind of their own fault because they're independently on their own grid. And so it's really up to them. And I'm like, wow, do you hear yourself? Basically saying that these people deserve to freeze and starve to death because of having an energy system that is much more, independent, right? And there's so much going on in that situation that's not for this transmission. But what I'm saying is that as the chaos starts to build even more and becomes more obvious, be compassionate, be forgiving, realize that everybody's going through a different part of their journey, and that we're all still here together, and we all need to still support each other. Now, the light of the world. Here's that spider again. Wow. Same connection, same connection, just in a different position now, but still the guidance point for the light of the world, right? Being strong, having a strong foundation, but also being flexible, not allowing predators into your sphere, because you can feel the vibration. This is what it means to have a web. You can feel the vibration from one end to the other, and it's subtle, right? But you can feel it. And it's important that we understand that, and we need to protect what is ours, which is our own internal sense of protection and nourishment and nurturing, and realize that that a web, for as flexible and sensitive as it is, it's really strong. And look at that. The two of forces, the willow, strong and flexible, right? At the same time. You have a strong foundation in the depth of your beliefs, in the depth of the connections that you make, right? The depth of and the strength of the connection of the threads, right? In what? Your community. Remember, we talked about this yesterday, the diamond grid, how the carbon atoms are so tight together that a diamond can take incredible heat and pressure because of how tightly bound the lattice of carbon atoms is. And this is the framework that holds us and holds the collective as it takes on more energy. And the same here with this willow. Everything you need is right here. And it's just about being rooted very strongly into that situation. Stand confidently in your truth so that you know that it's your higher self coming in and not some false light, okay? And when you are so attuned to the subtle vibrations in the web of your reality, you'll feel it, you'll know, and you'll be flexible. But it also means that you are still very strong in who you are, and everything you need is coming to you. Wow, this is an incredible, incredible day. I don't know what else to say about it, so I'm going to just end it there. Thank you so much for being here. If you want to reach out on Telegram, on Facebook, you can just check that out in the description box below. Like I said, if you're interested in a reading or energy work, you go to catalystenergies.net. Email is also in the description box. I have BitChute and YouTube, so wherever you're finding this, please consider subscribing. Definitely hit the like button. It helps the algorithm push this content out to more of an audience. And so if you find this helpful, just be assured that somebody else is also going to find this helpful. And this is how we build the lattice work of our community, is that we share information and that we share insight and we build from here. So thank you so much for being here. I love you guys so much. Take very good care of yourselves. And it's going to be an interesting day, to say the least. I'll see you tomorrow for the daily. Have a good one. Bye.